Appreciated. Jen, are we recording and making the appropriate transparency safeguards?
We are good to go, and I will ask our staff just to double check. We've got our YouTube and we are recording this.
We're recording now?
Yes, and we are
Okay,
live
great.
streaming.
Great, and my understanding is that we have a quorum. So I call to order the July 22 meeting of the Metropolitan Washington Air Quality Committee. My name is Dave Snyder, Falls Church City Council. It's an honor to chair this group this year and have had the honor previously as well. I want to thank all the MWAC members who have given so much of their time and will today, and thank all members of the public who have helped us get to this point and will help us get to the next point as well. So good afternoon and welcome to everyone. To start off, I'd like to ask members to enter your name and affiliation in the chat box. Staff will use this for attendance. As a reminder, please mute when not speaking, and you are encouraged to use the chat function as appropriate. Also, please note that this meeting is being recorded. We don't have any members of the public registered for comments. Is that right, Jen?
That is correct.
That's correct. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak with us today? Okay, not hearing or seeing any. We'll move to our first formal order of business, which is to approve the meeting summary from the May 2026 meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So move, Sonia.
Is there a second?
Second, Krista Mink.
Thank you so much. Any discussion? Any changes? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Abstentions? Thank you. That item passes unanimously. Now for the truly substantive element of our discussion today is the ozone standard maintenance plan and redesignation request. Sunil Kumar will provide a briefing on the maintenance plan and redesignation request. Members will be asked to approve the plan to be released for public comment, and then we have a recommended action. Now today, this is a very significant action, approving the region's 2015 ozone standard maintenance plan and redesignation and request for public hearing and comment purposes. Please note that the EPA sent their initial comments and they have been incorporated in the plan, but they may seek supplemental information. Should those be substantial in nature, the plan will be brought back to either MWAC or the executive committee for discussion before starting the public comment period. I'd like to thank everyone for their hard work on putting this together. I also want to make this point that we're only here because of the hard work of our citizens, the hard work of leadership at the local level, at the regional level, at the state level, and the federal level. We've achieved some good news, and this is an effort to maintain our progress that has great significance for the health and welfare of all the citizens that we serve. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sunil, who will now brief the committee. Sunil?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, everybody. So I will be talking about our redesignation request and maintenance plan that we have been working on for a few years now, and we have just completed the draft version of it, and we will be requesting your approval for the public hearing and comment purposes. So with that, let me get started on this. So just to kind of give you a quick background, in December 2015, the EPA published the new standard, which is 0.07 ppm or 70 parts per billion, and EPA designated as a marginal non-attainment area on August 3rd, 2018. However, we couldn't attain the standard by the deadline, so we have redesignated to or reclassified to moderate non-attainment area on November 7, 2022. And however, subsequently, we met the the 70 ppm standard which was that by the deadline, which was August 3rd, 2024, and EPA gave us a clean data determination in April last year. So that clean data determination and an attainment by the deadline allows us to submit a request to EPA to redesignate the area to attainment or maintenance, along with a submittal of a maintenance plan that will basically demonstrate that will keep complying with the standard in the future. So the basic purpose of the redesignation request is to request EPA to redesignate the area to attainment or maintenance. And it has two milestone years, base year 2017, attainment year 2022. And we need to demonstrate that the emission levels were reduced between the 2 years due to permanent and enforceable measures. The maintenance plan basically demonstrates compliance 10 years into the future, which is 2038. After EPA is reducing formal redesignation to attainment, which is expected sometime in 2028. It also needs to have a trigger for contingency in case if we again go back into non-attainment. So then at that point, the contingency measures will kick in, will bring down the emission levels and hopefully also the ozone levels. So in the ozone maintenance plan, there are basically four main sections. Well, so one is the air quality data, which shows compliance with the current ozone standard. Also need to have emission inventory that demonstrate that we will have lower emissions in the future. We also have very important motor vehicle emission budgets. In short, we call it mobile budgets. And that's basically a shilling on the mobile emissions for transportation conformity purposes. And then fourth, we have finally the contingency measures. As I said, in case we ever violate the NOx, then these measures would get implemented in a very short amount of time. So just to show you where we are in this, as of now, as far as ozone levels, compliance with ozone level is concerned, as you can see here, this shows the trend in the design value for the ozone standard and for the area. And design value is a parameter that EPA uses to evaluate an area's attainment or non-attainment status with respect to a particular standard. In this case, the current standard, which is 70 parts per billion. And as you can see, we're pretty high levels and upwards of 100 plus in late 90s, early 2000, and then it started to drop. And then it kind of became pretty much flattened between 2015 and now. But we can see in the last 2 years in data point, if you look at the 2024 and 2025, we are 69, which is 1 ppb below the standards. So in order to attain, we need to be either at the standard or below the standard. So which was, if you look at it, we're basically doing it since 2021. So we have 5 years of data that shows compliance. So EPA, we can submit a maintenance plan and redesignation request. So these are the milestone years of the plan. As I said, 2017 is the base year, and 2022 is the attainment year. The attainment year has to be one of the years when we actually, one of the years where the design value, which showed attainment for the first time. So 2022 works out best. We had the inventories from Marama EPA, so we chose that. So the redesignation request has those 2 years, 2017, 2022. Maintenance plan has the 2 years, 2032, 2038. 2038 is the 10 years from the EPA's expected date of redesignation to attainment, which is out here. We needed to have some interim years, so we chose 2032. So these are the milestone years, but we had to prepare inventories, and we did it. So the emission inventories for the 4 years include basically 4 major sources, point sources. So example is either electric generating units. You also have non-electric generating units. You have non-point sources, small sources, but nevertheless important, such as wood stove, portable fuel container, etc. Then you have non-road sources, such as lawnmowers, marine, airport, railroad equipment, and finally on-road sources, motor vehicles, different kinds. So as a condition to redesignation request, we needed to show that emissions will decline between 27 and 22. And you can see we did it for both NOx and VOC. NOx is on the left side, VOC emissions in the right side. As you can see, we saw in the left side, NOx emissions kept declining over the years between 2017 and 2038. In Washington, in the VOC emissions trend in the right side, you can see we saw a decline between 2017 and excuse me, 2032, and there is a marginal uptick, slight uptick in 2038. But the important thing is that we have to be below 2022. The emissions have to be below 2022. That's our baseline. So which is we're meeting both criteria for VOC and NOx. So that's good. So now there is a how the this our maintenance plan or revision request relates to this the transportation conformity plans. So basically, the SIP sets the motor vehicle emission budget or mobile budget, which is the maximum allowable emissions from vehicles, and the transportation planning board has to ensure that the total emissions coming from the motor vehicle emissions stay below that mark in its regional transportation plans. So that's the relationship between the SIP and the transportation plans. So the mobile budgets is in the maintenance plan. It has mobile emissions of budgets for the 3 years for 2022, 2032, and 2038 for both VOC and NOx. We also added some transportation buffers, and I will explain why in the next several slides. So we added 20% for VOC and 40% for NOx. Sorry. So here is the slide which shows the emissions from all 4 different sources, and as well as the buffers and the total motor vehicle emission budgets. So as you can see here in 2022, it shows the breakdown of emissions from different sources. Point sources are pretty low, as you can see right at the bottom in the maroon color, which is 5 tons per day. Then you have also quasi point sources, which are basically some airport sources. They get all the sources from the airports get grouped into one. We call them quasi point sources. That's the way that's the way to deal with these sources in the SIP. We have non-point sources, which is pretty big. Then you have non-road and on-road sources. Total emissions from all the sources are in 2020 215.83 tons per day, and then 2032, you can see here this emissions slightly change. The distribution of the emissions change. However, if you add the 4.3 tons per day, which is 20% VOC emissions on top of the on-road emissions, so the total budget becomes in 2032. In the right hand side, you can see the numbers is 21.4, which is the actual mobile emissions. 4.3 tons per day is the 20% buffer. The total budget comes out to be 25.7 tons per day. In 2038, that number is 21.4 tons per day. And say, even if after applying those buffers, you still have a little bit of a margin left from the base year, which is 2022. You can see for 2032, we have 1.07 tons per day of safety margin. Not a whole lot, but still there are some left. And then remaining safety margin in 2038 is 1.43 tons per day. So again, there's a bit of wiggle room for us. And so we are required to be below the 2022. The emissions in 2032 are required to be below 2022, and that's what we have right now. So those are the VOC emissions for safety margin and mobile budgets. For NOx, we have a lot more wiggle room actually, because you can see here. Again, first of all, let's talk about distribution of these emissions from different sources. You have point source emissions, on-road sources. Those are the major emissions for NOx in the area. Then we have non-point, non-road, and marine air rail sources, which are which are relatively small. So you can see here the total emissions in 2022 was 172.90 tons per day. In 2032, that's kind of dropped to 139.4, and then further in 2038 to 134.85. So even after applying the 40% safety margin to the mobile mobile emissions in 2032, and the numbers are listed again on the right hand side. So 2032, the mobile emission was 23.6 tons per day. we apply the 40% safety margin, which is 9.4 tons per day. The total is 33 tons per day. That's the total budget, whole budget. In 2038, the numbers comes out to be 22.3 tons per day. So even after applying the budgets, the safety margin, you can see the remaining safety margin is still about 24 tons per day in 2032 and about 31.75 tons per day in 2038. So we have a lot more room compared to VOC here. And this is important. NOx is very important for us. We have seen that whenever EPA changes the models or some data changes and travels one model side, the NOx emissions tends to get impacted much more than the VOC emissions. But again, it depends on the models and the plan different times. So so the important thing here is that both 2032 and 2038 NOx emissions are below the 2022 level, and that's what we require to do. There is a language in the SIP that says there will be a possible reevaluation of mobile budgets if necessary. They will be reevaluated in case there is a rollback of federal emission control program, or there are changes to the mobile moves emission model or any other on-road emission estimation model that results in the significant changes in emission inventories, or if we are required to accommodate transportation planning issues when the region's federally required Metropolitan Transportation Plan horizon year is extended beyond 2050. So at that point, if necessary, there will be these motor vehicle budgets will be reevaluated. Finally, the contingency measure piece. These measures are required to be implemented soon if the region exceeds the 2015 ozone standard in future. These are the measures. Some of them came from the Ozone Transport Commission. You can see there are also low permeation hoses, triple-S nozzles, ultra-low NOx burners for small boilers. So these are some of the contingency measures that the states will be implementing if the region ever exceeds the current standard in future. And finally, both these plan documents are available on our MWAQC website along with the appendices. And also they will be they're available on the MWAQC SIP website, so that these links could be used in the by the states for public hearing and comment purposes. Also wanted to point out quickly that we had discussion with EPA after their initial review, and they had some comments, and those comments have been incorporated in the updated document that you have on the MWAQC and the SIP website. So with that, I will end my presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sunil. I would ask any members of the Metropolitan Washington Air Quality Committee if you have any questions for staff. Okay, I'm not seeing any or hearing any. Please indicate now if you have any questions. Okay. No. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if in the calculations of acceptable, bad, predictable air quality occurrences like 4th of July, we know that that's going to be a bad air quality day, and then the frequencies of these Canadian and other fires that seem to impact our regional air quality. Could it be eventually become a predictable event that we might have in our structure?
So if I understand you correctly, your question is how these events are going to affect our air quality and possibly lead to incidence of standard. Is that what you understand?
Yeah. So the frequencies of these fires.
Yeah.
It's almost. I mean, that's one of the impacts.
Okay.
Annual impacts. Yeah.
So EPA has a special kind of rule. It's called exceptional events waiver rule, and actually the design value that I showed here, actually includes those waiver data in this design value here. For example, 69 the last 2 years they have included exclude the data from like a natural event, such as you pointed out to wildfires. They're coming from outside the country. The region doesn't have much, control on that. So in that case, EPA grants, states have to apply for a waiver of those data that are impacted by wildfires. And we had seen that in 2023 when we had lots of, incidences, very high levels of ozone and PM. So in that case, the states apply to EPA for a waiver. And if the states can prove that, those data were impacted by the wildfires, then the EPA grants them waiver, which in 2023 they actually did. And that kind of, brings down the air quality levels, the ozone levels. And so there is a process for, getting waiver for the data. And the data you have in this slide here, 2023 and 24, up to 25 actually are reflected. The last year we had, I believe it was actually, if you look at there is a small text at the bottom of the slide that explains that June 29, 2023, there was 89 ppb of daily. There was the day data in the district, and they got a waiver for that. So that brought down the ozone design value. So we have a process to do that, exclude those metric data.
Thank you very much for the question, and thanks for the answer. It's an important question. I think the bottom line is, even with those events, we're doing well. We'd be doing a lot better, obviously, without the importation of smoke from fires outside the area and without huge fireworks displays. Any other questions or comments? Yes, please, go ahead.
Hi, folks. Shannon Moore, Frederick County Government. We are dealing with the introduction of a new industry, which is the data center industry. And I'm wondering how the air quality staff have addressed emergency generation of electricity from backup diesel generators, since we have such a growing influence in our area.
So those kind of sources will be part of the area sources or non-point sources, I believe. So those are part of the emissions that go into the the road category of sources. In addition to electric utilities, generating utilities or non-road on-road sources, those kind of sources will be part of the non-point sources. So I understand the generators also run on like in particular days. So they have to have some permit or something to do that. So they are occasional. I don't know sure if they run frequently. But the state agency folks are here. So they may also add to what I'm saying. But all those emissions, they are captured in non-points as part of the non-point sources.
So it's all of the emissions that are in the air quality permits themselves, which include the testing of the backup generators. But I don't think those include the emergency use of the generators per se. I think that those, at least in Maryland, they're not including those in the air permits.
They are in the SIP. We include the average, average, ozone season day emissions. So average emissions during the summer season is included. I'm not at this point completely sure. Virginia staff is there. Maybe they can answer some of the questions. Maryland staff can answer the questions. They have insights into that. We get those kind of inventories from the state. So.
Yes, Sunil, this is Tom Buller from Virginia DEQ. There's two things there. We do count for all of the data centers, just like anyone else has to report to us their emissions on an annual basis. So we do know what they are emitting, and that the circumstance of them running in an emergency situation is only allowed on a very, very narrow and very limited basis per their permit. So it's not something that we would expect to happen on an extended period of time or quite often. They basically have to be. They basically have to be called upon by the regional power grid director or direct the group to run if there's a need for in an emergency situation, and that quite frankly has not happened much, if at all.
And I would add to the in response to the request, we're separately looking at that. We've had an initial presentation, and we'll continue to look at the data center related issues as a related matter, separate matter, if you will. So thanks. Another good question and answer. Thanks very much. Any other questions or comments? Okay, again, great questions and thanks very much. And we have ongoing issues which we'll clearly work on. If I could, under my parliamentary procedure, I'd move the approval of the plan for public review and comment, but I have to call on someone else to make that motion. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the ozone standard maintenance plan and redesignation request for the public comment period. Is there a motion?
There's a motion, Sonia Vasquez Luna.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Is there a second?
Second.
Al.
Thank you very much, Shannon, and thanks again for great questions. And we've had a lot of great work so far, but we have a lot of work to do to maintain our air quality standards. And I would note that all of the detailed plans and all of the other related information have been and are available on the COG website. And I would urge anyone who cares to take a look at that. We very much look forward to public input. Any further discussion or comment? We have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. All those in favor of approving the ozone standard maintenance plan and redesignation request for public comment, please indicate by signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Is there any opposition? Is there any abstentions? All right, that item passes unanimously. Thank you all very, very much for a huge amount of work, particularly staff. Staff not only of COG, but first and foremost, but all the staff of the agencies, all the public input so far, and we look forward to further public input. So I think that's that for that item. Jen, is there anything else you'd like us to discuss today?
There is nothing else on today's agenda.
Okay, thanks very much. Anyone have anything else that they'd like to bring forward today? Okay, not hearing any or seeing any, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn.
Mr.
Chair.
Thank you. Jen, did you get that? Motion and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, we're adjourned. Thank you all very, very much. Have a great, safe, and meaningful summer until we see everyone again. Take care.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks.